Hello. So I apologize for taking all day to do this. I got kind of wrapped up into all the politics of this. It's kind of like one of those things where you discover one thing, and then all of a sudden you discover another, and then you discover another, and then pretty soon we're at the Civil War, and then even farther, and it's just like a big hot mess. So let me show you what I was doing. By the way, I use OneNote as a note-taking software. You can get a version where it backs up to the cloud and it saves on a campus account for you, or you can set up your own free account. I predated the one where we had Microsoft campus support, and I think I haven't run it out of memory yet. But you can type in stuff and then it saves it to the cloud, and then your notes are safe. So what I was looking at, this is the discussion that we had earlier. How do we get a high school? How do we lobby for something like that? And I kind of run into dead ends until I found the word busing. And I don't know if you can see this. You'd have to zoom in on this. But school busing is like one of those key things where students get bused from a disadvantaged or a low income or something area. However, that's been politicized, however that word has been politicized, you're taking a population and you're reaching a federally reasonable accommodation for educational equity. What did I find? I found, let me see if I could show you. There's a great diagram. I also use Zotero as a note-taking software, and I'll send you all the articles that I found. I found more directions than I found articles. But I found this from 2018 from the state of Utah, and they have this great diagram, which makes you feel good, makes you feel like stuff is going on. But if we're interested in visual literacy, we realize that some of these can be interpreted in a variety of ways that don't feel so good. I'll send you this, and I'll send you other things that go along with it. But it seemed like busing was a big, big deal. I noodled around here and there, and it seems like 1964 Civil Rights Act might have influenced this, but in 1971, not validated, but there's somebody said that in 1971 the Supreme Court that federal courts could use desegregation busing, and then sometimes people would call it forced busing. And I was just like, what? What does that mean? And it's like all of these different things going on, and I found a few key themes which I think will inform what we're looking at. But this is how you would noodle around all the things that I found. So busing was a big one because that's used as a tool to create equity for a certain criteria. There's also neighborhood school was a good one, community school. Education equalization sounds egalitarian, but there's criteria for everything. And so for example, if you just Google busing, and I hate the spelling of that, but in the United States it's got a single S. I want two S's, but that's the British version. Busing versus neighborhood school, that worked really great in Google. But let me show you how I would go about this. From the library catalog, you can type in any of these things, but I would recommend going to advanced catalog search. Library catalog is a sample of kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. There's millions and millions of things from all sorts of different disciplines and levels of scholarliness. So there's like newspapers, there's videos, there's dissertations, there's scholarly articles. So it's good to kind of get a feel for what's going on. So if we do, I'll do that one where we talk about busing. But another thing we can do is we can say, well, what's an alternate? Another one might be forced busing, if I could misspell. And we could think of all these different synonyms for it. And then in the next line, you could do neighborhood school. The reason I put it in quotes is so those two words stick together, because in the catalog, it doesn't do a smart search. It doesn't look at your cookies or your history or your where you're physically at. And in this one, we can narrow it down to date, but it's fascinating what they've used for buses to create, to satisfy criteria. And one of the keywords in there was desegregation. And what you can do, what I did with all of these is I wanted to find what's going on, how are people describing this, and what are some of the keywords. So here you can get courts, maybe it's civil, maybe it's criminal, probably civil. And there's talk about neighborhoods. You get the words from newspapers where people are talking about neighborhood, schools, school desegregation, and community school diversity priorities in the resegregation era. There's a lot of great stuff. Let me show you another search. Library catalog's good for just kind of brainstorming, but when you've satisfied your the keywords that you want to use, then you can go into specific databases. There's quite a few for political science, but you can find those by going under subject and political science and public administration. And you can see a list of some that people have selected for you. Sorry, it's the end of the day and my brain is switching off. But I have a curated list of databases that I would like you to consider because I'm going to include the poli-sci librarian in on this conversation. If you go to research guides, and you could type in political science here and you'd find the librarian. In fact, let's do that first. Then you'll be able to see that the political science librarian is Jasmine Kirby, whom I will introduce to you via this email. But if we type in social work, which is not unlike, it's kind of the implementation of policy decisions, I have a list of databases for you to consider. If you go to PhD and Master's Help, shh, Joe, I'm making a video. Oh, and by the way, it's just Campus Guides, libutah.edu/social_works/PhD. Validating keywords. This is something that we just did, but there's some other places for you to look at. These are all databases. So we've used the library catalog, but CQ Researcher, this is typically at the federal level. Federal law, federal politics, debate being discussed, rhetoric, and it's got a great historic background. That is, it's a small journal, it's not scholarly, but it has a lot of great information. So busing might be a good one in there. Nexus Uni has federal legislation, but it also has state. So if you wanted to look up busing or equalization programs or things like that, the Utah would show up there. And maybe like Salt Lake County or other places, or specific districts. US Newsstream, most of the newspapers in the United States, if you wanted to narrow down to Salt Lake City, you could. But here are my discipline-specific databases that I'd recommend. The biggest ones are my favorites. I'm trying to zoom in here for you. The biggest ones are my favorites, but all of these have a different angle on the scholarship that's approaching it. They're full of evidence-based scholarship, so this is the good stuff. Sociology looks at it's like group psychology, how societies and cultures and communities interact with each other. And there's a lot of case studies in here, like busing, like desegregation. This one's okay. This one's probably not going to be the best. PsycInfo, the social work people adore this because there's a lot going on with like interventions for wellness of somebody, but that might not be so great for policy. This one, Education Full Text plus ERIC, is the one that I'll go into first. But Business Source Premier, PAIS Public Policy, yes, that's a great one. And here's that Worldwide Political Science Abstracts again too. Let's go to the education one, and let's try our keyword set. Oh, it's big. go to the advanced search, and then we can do that multiple keyword thing again. But since we're in the context of education, these are professors of education, educational psychology, education, society and policy. I forget the name of the degrees here. But it's also teachers doing case studies, administrators, and things like that. But since we know that, we don't have to put in education or schools. We could just do busing and, I don't know, community school. Well, let's see what keywords it gives us. We can mine the data of whatever has been written, mostly in the United States, for the last 40 years. Look at that, critical race theory right there. Does that mean it affects a community school? Maybe or maybe not, but what you'll be doing is gathering pieces that build up a precedence for what you want to talk about. So not every article should be on the exact topic that you want, but it's a bunch of supporting. It's part of a conversation. And think of the articles as people who are joining the conversation. Oh, this is one of the articles that I found. This is a good one because it talks about an attempt to work with the equity in community schools, and apparently it was a failure. One of my citations found that. What I'd like to point you to, though, is if you go down on the left-hand side in these facets, what we have is keywords and subjects made by the authors of all these scholars. So there's all sorts of different things going on that you might use for keywords. So stuff like safety. I thought everything would be about safety, but no, it's about it's about getting by on equity criteria. And some of it, Biden on the bus, sounds a little maybe not objective. But let's try community school. If I wanted to do community school or schools, I could do a star, and that'll catch both of them. But look at how many different things there are. Funding, relations, relationships, partnerships. Let's do community school and segregation or gentrification or desegregation. So I don't know which one of these keywords I'm going to catch. Oh, discrimination. I guess we could do busing too. You just throw all of your keywords in there. You get the idea. The more keywords you throw in the or statement, the bigger your search results will be. The fewer keywords you have, or the more that you put these ands in there, the smaller your results will be. I'm really excited about this one. It's not necessarily public policy, but it's administrators and scholars talking about the effects of things. Sociological abstracts might be good for this search too. Hey! Oh, these look great. Heritage Project, multi-ethnic school desegregation in 2 Chicago communities. Our poli-sci librarian is from Chicago, I believe. So if there's been any significant action there. Look at that, inclusive cities. I hadn't heard of those. Okay, as you go, keep notes on things and download citations as you can. Zotero is the citation manager that I'm using, but there's a variety of different ways of going about it. Let's go to a different database. I'm going to grab this. Search. So there's 108 here. Let's go to a public policy database. Come on, let me out. Okay, there we go. Sociological abstracts is going to rock. PAIS is going to rock. Both of these are global, not just North American centric, and obviously worldwide. Political science abstracts is going to be that as well. But if we wanted to look outside of the K through 16 education system in the United States, we can go to one of these, click on advanced search, and do that same search. Community school or schools, desegregation or discrimination. poor brain is just about done. And at this one, you can click on peer reviewed if you want to get through all the dissertations. But you can also see other people's dissertations. It's all part of this big scholarly conversation. 147. Ooh, cool. Hey, there's another one from Chicago. And here's something from Brazil. So you're going to see things from all over the place. Different populations represented. Let's try community school and let's add a keyword. Let's go back. I'm going to add refugee. Refugee star is refugee or refugees. I think it's going to kill my search. ProQuest doesn't like the cookies that I've got, and sometimes it gets stuck. Okay. Let's see if this makes a difference. So if you want a specific population, just add another row for that keyword. Ooh, 15. Experiential learning. Ooh, children's access. Common schools and curriculum separate is not equal. Alien suffrage from 100 years ago. So you get to pour through all of this stuff, and you can click on any of these and look at what's going on. The last thing that I wanted to show you, which I just remembered, is busing. What was my keyword? Maybe busing. I can't remember. There was actually books on this. I'm closing that now. Instead of doing the advanced search, you can do it like this too. Busing and I don't think those had. Oh, I know what I could do. I'll do all my keywords. School or desegregation. I could do all of those keywords. I'm hoping to find this book though, because it's like a history of busing and its influence on federal policy in the United States. Looking over at books. Come on, books. It had a yellow cover, just like a school bus. Knowing something exists is a big deal because there's like millions of things published every year. Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think we had it. Oh, that's interesting. In England, they called the idea of desegregating and busing people dispersal. That's such a British thing to say. Oh, there it is. Why busing failed. Is this about your community school? Not entirely. It's a supporting argument. So we're going to be looking at all these different topics and give yourself a break and try and lump things into themes. One of the themes definitely might be community school development, but another big one might be busing transportation. Another one might be about civil rights law in the late 1960s, et cetera, et cetera. But this is all that I got for the video. So cruise through this weekend and see what you can't find. Save what you've got, and I'll reach out to Jasmine in this email, and we can keep on working on this with you. If I can stop the video.